Okay, so now we want to go ahead and see how to estimate the discount rate. And as we said before, the real key here is to identify the risk of the cash flows that you're discounting. So this material is covered in chapters 8 and 9, where we do things like, estimating the cost of debt, that's the R sub D, and things like that. And then in chapters 11 and 13. So we want to identify the risk of the cash flows. So what type of risk? So we need to estimate the systematic risk. Now we do not want the total risk, which includes both systematic risk and unsystematic risk. So why not? Because an investor can get rid of this unsystematic risk or unique risk by holding a diversified portfolio. So if there's a particular type of risk, this unsystematic risk, that you can actually avoid or eliminate by holding a diversified portfolio, then this will not be priced in asset markets. So you're a risk-averse investor, you're going to get a compensation for holding risky assets, but if you can get rid of the unsystematic risk, then you will not get a compensation for taking on that unsystematic risk, because you can get away from it, you can diversify it away. So the only compensation you will get is for taking on systematic risk. So in most cases, we are going to measure systematic risk by beta. And there are two approaches to estimating this beta. We can use the regression approach, or you can see the fundamental beta approach. You can use either of those two. And the lecture slides basically goes through several examples of how you can do this. The textbook also has a good explanation. And then once we get the beta, that's the level of risk, then we'll use the capital asset pricing model, or the CAPM, to convert this level of risk into a cost of capital. And this CAPM is one of the most commonly used approaches. How do we know that? You can see the survey article from Graham and Harvey that are posted on Moodle, where basically they surveyed CFOs, and the CFOs tell us that the CAPM is the most commonly used approach. So there are three components of the CAPM. You need to estimate the RF, you need to get the market risk premium and the beta. And we can get the beta using the regression and the fundamental beta approach. You can use either one. Now the one thing I'd like to caution you, keep in mind, so this market risk premium, this MRP, is basically RM minus RF. That's not the same as the market return, which is just RM. Okay, so the market risk premium is RM minus RF. So make sure you don't make this error, make sure you don't get this confusion, because this is a common error that I've seen over the years. So make sure that you don't make this mistake. Okay, so this will bring us to an end of looking at the asset side of the balance sheet, where we are going to see how firms can do capital budgeting, how you can use estimate the discount rate, and then how you can use that using all your time value of money calculations to convert that into a net present value, or maybe use the IRR approach. Okay. So that brings us to an end of the first focus, which is on the asset side of the balance sheet. And much of this you've seen in your MBA 520. So this is meant as I guess as a little bit more of an advanced review.